Thanks everyone for the opportunity to talk about Darwin. Let me first say that we are very proud that we have the Titan Award this year, and there's a nice picture I think online. I didn't put it in my presentation, maybe I should. Nice picture taken from the group that was in the US when we got the award, but it was even nicer to bring it back home and to share with the rest of the team that we got this award, and it's going around a little bit at the department and also well, between the groups. So it's very much appreciated, and we're very proud of that. So today we are going to give a bit of an update. We've been talking about Darwin definitely on a yearly basis, I think, and in multiple settings. I'm together here with Katja Verhamme, who's leading the study operations, and Maxim Moinat, who's leading network operations. But I will give a very quick intro also for those that may not be that familiar with Darwin yet, just to get you up to speed a little bit. So Darwin EU is an initiative from the European Medicines Agency. It came out of recommendations from the Big Data Task Force. You see on the left a couple of topics that they prioritized, and Darwin EU is the top priority to set up this network of standardized data in Europe to answer questions from the committees from the European Medicines Agency. Let me move on to the next slide. I just want to emphasize that the presentation is really the view of the Darwin EU Coordination Center, which I'm leading from Erasmus side, but it should not be interpreted and as reflecting those of the European Medicines Agency or the European Medicines Regulatory Network. This is important to mention that we do not speak on behalf of EMA today. So the Darwin EU Initiative is a federated data network. It's a network of data, but expertise and services that we provide in the Coordination Center to the European Medicines Agency. You see there on the top EMA, and then multiple committees that EMA has set up to answer different types of questions or focus areas, I should say. You also see around the Coordination Center the data partners. There's a bit of mix here, individual data partners, and Maxim is going to talk much more about the data network. Most data partners are still individual data partners that we connect to, or we have framework contracts with. But there's also a growing list of organizations that are in the middle of data sources, like, for example, in Finland, there is a group of hospitals in OMOP that are part of the network. So we have a kind of intermediate step there, and this is very much in line also later when the European health data space in Europe, a very big thing that you may have heard about, is going to be fully implemented. There will be multiple of these type of settings foreseen where there's a data permittatory or a data access body, health data access body in the European health data space setting. But currently it's more on the original, the usual way, connecting to an individual data partner. The idea is to support the decision making on different types of topics, and Katja will give a couple of examples of some recent studies that we have finalized. This is very exciting, as you can imagine, for us. We are now in the fourth year of the Darwin EU current contract that we have. It's still a 1-year contract, but we learned a lot about running studies in Europe on a very large scale, as you will see later in the presentation. The studies that we are executing have been categorized in kind of complexity, off-the-shelf studies, just using existing codes, running it with the protocol, complex studies involving a bit more, for example, phenotyping steps. In principle, in the end, and this is the original definition of these types of studies, all of them have a common protocol, and all of them are using standard analytics, as you may imagine. But the complex studies are sometimes a bit more involved in building analytical code to make that happen. And then there's routine repeated studies where we repeat these studies over time. So it could be a drug utilization study that we repeat on a yearly or quarterly or whatever basis. Then finally, there's very complex studies. These are more collaborative studies, and we are starting 2 of these initiatives, or 2 of these studies, collaborations. Now we have one on pregnancy and one on oncology, where we're going to run studies on oncology in the data network. It's not me alone, of course. It's a very big team, and I'm very proud how we've been growing over the years, and the number of data scientists and PIs that are involved is really, really large. This is also necessary because we are running a large number of studies. I think probably most of the organization that runs most of the studies currently at the same time. It's really amazing, and Katja will give you that overview of these numbers. But it's the team is still growing, and still at the moment we have positions opened again for data scientists, so adding new data scientists in the team, and it's just exciting to see the number of applications. I think it's more than 200 or so people that apply for these positions. It's very interesting to see that growth, and also learn many more people while doing the DARWIN EU Coordination Center. It's really exciting. We do it together with subcontractors you see on the right, and they are all doing a great job, I would say. I want to just stand still for a bit on this slide. I know it's a bit busy, but it is a overview of the yearly report that EMA makes. This is the third report, and this is talking about regulatory-led studies from 2024 till 2025, and it describes the different ways of delivering real-world evidence for regulatory purposes in the EU. As you see in the middle, there are three mechanisms, mainly EMA studies just done internally by EMA experts, framework contracts where there's contracts with small groups of data sources and experts. And then there's DARWIN EU, which is the contract that we currently have for the DARWIN EU Coordination Center, where studies are run through the DARWIN EU Coordination Center and then executed in the federated network. What's really nice to see is that there's an enormous growth in the number of studies that are now executed through DARWIN EU. You can use the QR code to go into more depth, and Katja will come back a little bit more also later on this. But yeah, the number of studies is really very high, and we are very proud that we very recently hit the 100 studies initiated through DARWIN milestone. You may have seen it on LinkedIn posts from EMA, and this is a big thing. It's a huge number of studies that are being executed on OMOP across the data network, the growing data network, as Maxim will show you in a few minutes probably. I also want to mention that the behind the scene, it's the large team in the Coordination Center, but also the data partners. So all these different organizations that are now part of the DARWIN EU network. And very recently, actually last week, we had two very exciting meetings. One meeting was inviting all the data partners in Erasmus. You see on the left, where we had a full day on aligning on processes, sharing thoughts and ways to make studies go even faster, etc. Very interesting and very nice discussion with all these very enthusiastic data partners that over time have also run quite a large number of studies, definitely some of them. It's exciting to see that many of them also come from the Eden project, so we have helped them to get on the OMOP CDM in Eden, where I've talked about many times before. But also other organizations are joining in that federated network now. Then the day after a nice dinner in Rotterdam, we went to the EMA building in Amsterdam, and we had a full day, the meeting with the data partners, but also the advisory board of DARWIN EU was there, and the EMA members, of course, themselves, including Emer Cook, the lead. It was a really, really nice day where EMA shared how DARWIN EU is actually helping them, what the role of DARWIN EU is in the regulatory process, and how the scale-up of DARWIN is really helping them to make better decisions and better use of real-world data, I would say. Very enthusiastic data partners again there, and this really helps to also strengthen the community feeling within the DARWIN EU data network. And we really look forward to work with these data partners and an additional approximately 10 data partners that will join very soon in the network, as Maxim may talk about. With that, I want to just highlight some of the key people, leadership in Darwin EU, Katja from study operations, Maxim network operations. Dani is leading development pillar. Unfortunately, he cannot join today because he's in another project, another project at the moment, and I'm leading the technology pillar together with the overall leadership. I want to move to a few updates on development and technology pillar, which I will give since Dani is not here, and well, technology is my pillar anyway. There has been quite a lot of work being done on and refinements on the catalog of standard analytics, and this is a deliverable that we have in Darwin, where we need to specify what are the analytics that we need to run to answer the questions from the regulator. On the website of Darwin EU, you see an overview of the current analytical tools and analytical questions that we have to answer. But as you can imagine, this is not a finished thing. It will be driven by questions coming from the regulators all the time. Even though the Darwin EU Coordination Center had a kind of establishment phase and we're now in the operational phase, it doesn't mean that the development is stopping. We are still doing that quite a large scale. There's a lot of work being done in standardization throughout the pipeline, so that whether it's on onboarding, quality control, but also definitely on the last part of the whole evidence chain, it's the dissemination of the results. So we are working on standardization of Shiny apps, standardization of code releases, of study packages, and all these steps are really continuously moving forward. And it's very nice to see some new R packages also being created to standardize these Shiny apps, and a lot of work is done by multiple people in multiple data scientists. Another very often forgotten topic is to help the management of the studies. And as you can imagine, the number of studies in Darwin, which is 100 studies initiated, running 50 in parallel or so, really requires us to manage these studies over time, the planning of the study, the different stages of the study, how to prioritize, etc., and keep track of all of that. So we've done enormous amount of work, I dare to say, in building a tracker, a study tracker that's been, well, at every PIs and data scientist screen very frequently, because it tells them exactly what the deadlines are and what the projections are and when this study needs to be finished or when the next steps need to be made. On top of that, we've created some dashboards which give a very nice interactive view on the status of all the studies. So whether they are in dissemination mode or in any of the other stages that we have defined, exploration, implementation, execution, dissemination, and when we are crossing deadlines, etc. So this is extremely valuable and necessary if you run studies at this scale that we are doing in Darwin EU. It also means we continuously need training for the staff and also for the data partners on tools. For example, co-diagnostics is an important tool that we use from the OHDSI community, and it will require continuous also updates with the data partners, new data partners joining, training them on how to review co-diagnostics, for example, is a attention point that we have in our current processes. And this is true for many other tools that we create or we reuse from OHDSI. The Darwin EU packages are growing, the numbers is growing, different types of packages for onboarding, quality control. Maxim has been working a lot on that, around phenotyping, analytical tools, more utility tools, and also tools for reporting to create standard reports or create the Shiny applications. It's a whole roster of tools which definitely no time to go into. You see some have nice colored images, some not yet, but they will get it. It's quite a large ecosystem by now, in combination, of course, with tools that we use from OHDSI or contribute to OHDSI. These packages are on CRAN. That has, of course, as you all know, some advantages, but they're also on Darwin EU, the GitHub website. And there are multiple publications also about tools already. What's good to realize is that the development of tools that we build are really driven by very emerging questions coming from the regulator and that have short timelines. So these packages have certain peaks where we need different types of functionality based on upcoming studies or ongoing activities. But it's a continuous flow of activities. It never really stops, although for some packages, I dare to say this is quite stable, but there are also many that have continuously updates and commits. We've also been working on aligning more with the OHDSI ecosystem. So the CDM connector package that we use to allow us to work with DBI directly is now also able to connect to database connector, which means that we can use also all the OHDSI tooling naturally in the ecosystem. And there's been some nice updates done by the team, and also Adam is heavily involved in that. This also means that we are bringing back tools to the OHDSI community, and Maarten, I'm not sure whether he is in the call, but he's also responsible for some of these slides. He did a lot of great work in aligning with the HDSI team on the treatment patterns package that we have developed in already before Darwin, but we have optimized and improved quite a bit in Darwin and added a lot of functionality. This is now also part of HDSI, and we keep that as the source or the actual version of treatment patterns. And we work with this tool also a lot in many studies. So this is a good mechanism, I think, for us bringing back some of the tooling that we had to develop under a lot of time pressure as well sometimes, and bring them back into the HDSI suite. And thanks to Maarten for driving that, and of course for Martijn in helping with doing that. We keep track on the use of the packages, and this is the overview of studies that use multiple components, and often the study is not a simple only incidence prevalence, but it has multiple objectives. So we may need to add treatment patterns or characterization or cohort characteristics or all kind of different packages. There's an upgoing trend clearly because of the number of studies that are increasing quite a bit. But it's nice to see this development, and also the use of the packages by external organizations is growing quite fast. The general status, we have, I think we tick the boxes for the database interface, and the standard analytics are a very good stage now. For the reporting, there's still some work to be done, but definitely good prototypes that we are rolling out for this upcoming period. This is a work by a lot of people, and you see some of the main characters here, and I'd like to thank them definitely also for all their contributions that they're doing in this package space, and all the analytical packages that they're working on. With that, I want to hand over to you, Katja, to go to it. Just let me know when you want me to move the slides. I'll move over to this one, I think.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Can you hear me, Peter?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, okay. So thank you for inviting us, as Peter said, to give an update on DARWIN EU, and I'm going to talk about study operations here as well. It's of course definitely a team effort. I'm leading the study operations together with Talita Duarte-Salis. I don't know whether she's on the call, and then we have Natasha Yupimenko, who's a study manager for our studies, and then of course the whole group of principal investigators and data scientists and the person responsible for quality. You see the number of studies per phase by study type. Peter explained the type of studies that we have. So we have off-the-shelf, routine, repeated, complex and very complex studies. One represents the first phase, year one. So we have from year 1 to year 4, and you see the growing number of studies, growing number of off-the-shelf studies, routine, repeated studies, complex studies, and we have very complex studies this year as well. Link to the website explaining the studies with links to the protocols reports can be found at the bottom of the page, and also the QR code. And perhaps nice to say that we've have more than 100 studies now, studies finished, but also ongoing studies. So in the total number of studies that we had finished or working on is more than 100. And EMA celebrated this also by putting a linked communication, so that can be seen as well. Next, slide, Peter. With regard to the duration of studies, so we now have less than 4 months for studies conducted through DARWIN EU, and this was reported by EMA as well, that improved compared to the duration of studies that we did in previous years. So decreased duration has been reported despite the increasing volume of studies. So it's very good, of course, that we can conduct an observational study, an epidemiological study in less than 4 months. And so we are, of course, very happy with that result. Next slide, Peter. So here you see, it's a little bit busy slide, but it's a heat map. You see the different type of studies: off-the-shelf, routine, repeated, complex, very complex, over the whole of the DARWIN study so far, so from year 1 to year 4. And at the x-axis, you see the databases, and then how often these databases participated in the respective studies. And there are some databases which have been frequently used, like, for instance, CPOD Gold, CDAP, but of course that also depends on when these data partners enrolled into the network. Next slide, Maxim. Peter alluded on this document. It's a document from the EMA on real-world evidence framework to support EU regulatory decision-making. So in that report, it's focusing on 2024. So in that report, it was specified that 59 studies were conducted. And then I'm repeating here as well the median duration, which was 4 months. And then indeed that results of the studies were used as part of regulatory decision-making. Next slide, Maxime. And I'm going to show you some examples. It's good to say that these studies that are requested, they come from committees, so regulatory committees. Of course, studies are important to answer specific questions. And some of these answers are then indeed used as part of regulatory decision-making. When I was at OHDSI Global, I presented results on the association between doxycycline use and risk of suicidality, because there was a signal that doxycycline might be associated with an increased risk. To explore this potential association, we did a disease incidence study, but we also did a causality study using self-controlled case series and a cohort study to explore that association. Next slide, Maxime. The results of these 2 studies, so the incidence of suicide in patients with acne and with other skin conditions, and then also the causality study, were discussed at the PRAC meeting. So PRAC is the Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee, one of the committees of the EMA, was discussed in the meeting of November 2024. Next slide, Maxime. And what is highlighted in red, so PRAC decided that after reviewing all available evidence, so not only the results of DARWIN EU, but also spontaneous reports, literature, the discussion on possible mechanisms, and the study performed via DARWIN EU, that PRAC considered that the evidence is not sufficient to establish a causal relationship, and that at that time no update to the product information of doxycycline was warranted, but of course that safety of doxycycline remains closely monitored. Next slide. It was not only the study on doxycycline that was used as part of regulatory decision-making in 2024, but also other studies. For instance, a study for use of CGRP antagonists. They are used for the treatment of migraine. And there were some reports on potential signals on association with insomnia, erectile dysfunction, increased blood pressure, and PRAC. So the Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee wanted to have background rates on these outcomes in patients treated with CGRP antagonists and comparator drugs. There was also a disease epidemiology study on the incidence of respiratory syncytial virus requested by CGMP. So the Committee of Human Medicinal Products. So that's a committee dealing with new drugs. And they wanted to have information on the incidence of RSV infections in adults, not only in children. There was a study where we looked into use of ADHD drugs to check whether there was a potential shortage of these drugs, because of course that is a concern in Europe, probably in US as well. So wanted to have an information on whether there could be potential concerns of shortage. And then a similar drug utilization study on GLP-1 agonist use, again, to determine potential shortage. Maxim, I think that was my last slide.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katja.
Okay. Thank you.
And then to conclude, I'll give you an overview of the DARWIN EU network, and also how this network evolved over time to how we got to these 31 data partners now. There are actually 30 on this list.
There's a column we need to fix as well.
Please do. But we actually onboarded last month our 31st data partner, the University Hospital of Antwerp. As you can see here, we have now a total size of the network of 188 million patients. These are actually comprised 40 data sources over 18 countries. There are some individual data partners, but also data partners with multiple data sources. So these are networks in itself, like VIN OMOP, consisting both of a population registry and 3 hospitals, all mapped to the OMOP common data model. This goes for all data partners, of course. We all make use of the OMOP common data model to facilitate the studies that Katja showed. We have a very good representation from Western Europe, Northern Europe. We're now working actually to also cover Eastern Europe and fill in these gaps in the map. It's good to note that this data network is very heterogeneous. This is a strength and also a challenge. We have GP data, hospital data, claims data, population registries, and disease registries, mainly cancer registries, like from the Netherlands and Norway. These data sets also vary quite a bit by size. We have a small hematological registry of just over 1,000 patients, but also a large claims registry of over 40 million patients. Then how did we get here over the years? So each year of Darwin, it started in 2022, we set out to onboard 10 data partners. Year 1 was kickstarted by Eden, actually, relying a lot on these data partners that already mapped to OMOP and shown the capability to run studies. It was nice that we already had 7 countries covered there, but it was mostly GP data, 1 biobank, 1 registry, and 2 hospitals. Then for year 2, we focused both on expanding geographically, but also include more hospital data, as it was much requested. And it's also now included 2 nationwide registries, both from Finland and from Norway, very valuable, and 2 claims data sets. And new was here that we started supporting new data partners new to OMOP to map their data to OMOP. I think it was 2 in year 2, and actually in year 3, we support another 4 to map their data to OMOP. There, in year 3, the focus was more on including oncology specialized data sets, or hospital data as well, and another nationwide registry. Then now we're finishing year 4, actually. And as I said, we have already onboarded 1 new data partner, but we're aiming over the next months to onboard another 9. Where we're focusing again on oncology, but also pediatric data sources. We'll include US data for some further geographic expansion, also for Eastern Europe. And we hope to onboard a registry on rare diseases. And here actually more than half will be newly mapped to the OMOP common data model. Then, just to show the extent here, the data sets are, of course, we request them to refresh their data. So the target is twice a year. with some only recently onboarded. The spread is large. Some have just refreshed the data once, some up to 8 times. In total, 142 releases, so OMOP CDM data releases have been validated. And you can see here how that progressed over the years as well. For each of these releases, we asked the data partners to run and share the results of some quality control packages. We make use of the OHDSI data quality dashboard, but we also developed some of our own packages like CDM onboarding and created a package to extract counts for study feasibility called dashboard exports, which relies heavily on the Achilles analysis. We review these results and give feedback to the data partners such that they can improve further their data, but also give feedback to study operations that the data should be good for studies, or there might be any limitations to consider for certain study types. More information on the network and on Darwin in general can be found on our website. And I think to conclude, it's nice to first circle, this is the team that received the Darwin Award or in person, but of course we have a wider team here behind Darwin. I think now more than 30-40 personnel in Darwin EU itself. So I think that's really nice to took that award on behalf of the whole group. Thank you for your attention.
Great, thank you, Peter, Katja, and Maxim. We have certainly some time here if people have questions. If you want to raise your hand and unmute, and we can take some questions. And if you could share the slides with me, I will post on the community calls page later along with the video presentation. Harland, go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Darwin EU team. We are in the process of getting onboarded. I am representing the Belgian Cancer Registry. I was just wondering, how do you see the continuation of this project once the collaboration with EMA, or at least the current project, has officially ended? Is there any chance for a prolongation, or do you just try to continue without additional funding? That's my question.
I'm happy to take that one. Yes, for sure, this Darwin will not stop. So Darwin will continue. There will be another contract being given. So that process will start. So there will be an open procurement procedure again, and we will of course apply with the current team for that. And that will reassure that the network will definitely continue. Hopefully with us, but we do not know that for sure, of course. But this is a process that will happen. It will start. So the current contract is till February 2027. So you're stuck with us for sure. And then we'll see what happens. So there will be a public announcement happening soon, I guess. I do not know the details, but when it happens, we will apply again for that. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure. And welcome on board already, maybe. Yeah.
Thank you. George, go ahead.
Hi, this is George from Amgen. I just have a question. I mean, this is great work. It's a huge amount of work and a lot of different data and a lot of people involved. I mean, my question is about the validation aspect. Are you planning to do a lot of validation for the analytics? For example, looking the data sources you're selecting for the different studies, comparing against other data sources, about the cohort definition part, the attrition tables, about the analytic algorithms. that you're using? Are you planning to do any validation work for all this?
Yeah, so of course, within a study, we have a limit on the number of data partners that can join just within one study. That's defined actually by EMA. And in that process, there indeed is a procedure also for phenotyping. There's a publication actually written on the process that we take for phenotyping, which includes assessing multiple phenotypes and doing the core diagnostics that OHDSI has created to evaluate these cohorts. So this is part of the studies. Study process in general has these different definition steps in it, and we learn a lot from that. So yeah, just getting the insights in the functionality of the cohorts and reusing that for other studies is something that has a high focus in the team. So there's tools being developed to capture that information from the different studies as well. For the validation, there's validation, it's nicely written actually in the book of OHDSI. The validation has different components, right? Analytics, but also the study parts. On the analytics side, we take all the usual measures of unit tests and test sets and evaluations and code review, etc., as we also do it. Everybody does in OHDSI. So that's part of standard procedures as well. And the fit for purpose question that you may have is also highly on our agenda. It's part of the feasibility assessment process where we assess whether these databases actually have the data, and we make good progress in speeding up that process as well on feasibility. Because even though there are 100 studies initiated, I can tell you there are many more that have been requested and we are not doing because we think it's actually not feasible within the current network yet. Maybe I should say it could be that when new data enters that we can run some of these studies that were not feasible initially. But yeah, it's all very valid points and definitely, of course, on our radar as much as possible. Yeah, but maybe Katja, you want to respond to this?
Yeah, small thing with regard to the fit for purpose. Some of these data partners had done in previous research, for instance, validation themselves of outcomes or conditions, and that's something we consider as well together with EMA, because it's EMA that decides which data partners to include. But for instance, data partners which had validated certain outcomes, they are of course a good data partner to select for the studies.
Thank you.
Thanks, George. There's a question from Nikolai in the chat. I don't know if Nikolai, if you want to unmute and ask. Otherwise, I can. How do you assess developments surrounding the EHDS in the context of Darwin EU?
Yeah, very good question and very timely. Yes, EHDS, of course, is kind of activated, but it will be rolled out until 2031 when it needs to be completely effective. Yeah, so EHDS is going to play an important role, definitely for the next contractor to handle. At the moment, Darwin EU is actually a pathfinder project, as it's called, for EHDS. So the processes that we go through, all the steps that we take, are very much in line in how the EHDS is supposed to work. For example, using a trusted research environment to upload the results to. This is something that we also have in Darwin EU with the digital research environment. The use of the governance procedures, the federated analysis, which is one of the options that the EHDS is allowing is allowing in the future. These are very much, this process are very much informed on what we are doing, especially considering the scale that we're running studies in the large network. We learn a lot, and we also provide input through multiple channels on the development of the EHDS. OMOP by itself, I think, should play a very important role in EHDS to help with the standardization of the data, either using the federated approach, which we all use in Darwin already and in OHDSI in general, but also sharing versions of the data in a central repository, a trusted research environment, how it's called in EHDS, is very much supported by having a standardization in that process. So even uploading subset of data in the OMOP common data model would allow people to run common analytics in the EHDS setting in the trusted research environment. We are working out, thinking about a communication or maybe a publication on how OMOP and the OHDSI tooling and the experience with Darwin is actually helping to shape the European health aid space. So keep an eye on that. That would, I think, would be quite helpful for everyone in Europe, because we all have to deal with this. And OMOP is important and has been and is talked about by many people in the ESDS space, I think.